Hey, I'm Jason. I've averaged over 300% pipeline impact by working with B2B tech companies by building, scaling, and operationalizing their partner programs. Generally, I see results within the first 6 to 9 months, but you want to see it take about 18 months to see this thing really begin to take off. My primary tactics are building the partner motion and strategy into the go to market initiatives, creating really deep strategic alignment between the sales and marketing teams, and spending that dedicated time to enable those teams again over the course of 3 to 6 months from an enablement perspective to really see it take off and hockey stick. My teams typically consist of myself to upwards of 4 to 6 people. I believe you can begin to implement all this process through your own by focusing on one partner that you can truly and strategically go to market with through your marketing initiatives, launching there, creating this go to market partner, and then begin going to your sales team to provide that necessary level of enablement that helps them achieve and accomplish their goals. And honestly, I believe anyone that has achieved product market fit can begin to nail these tactics and nail these go to market motions and begin to build a partner program by thinking about that one strategic partner. And I'm always here to help.
If that resonates with you, listen along. Otherwise, honestly, don't. Check out our other episodes instead. You are listening to TLDR, the B2B SaaS growth podcast brought to you by Spear Growth. Every episode is like a case study of a tactic, which means if you're listening to this on a Friday, by Monday you can actually start implementing it. I'm your host, Ishan, and I run an ads and SEO agency for B2B SaaS companies like yourselves. Now, let's get into the episode.
Jason Yarborough, often referred to as Yarby in this space. I specialize in building, scaling, and operationalizing B2B tech partnerships. View myself as more of a GTM strategist, currently a fractional VP of partnerships for a company called Knak and a consultant advisor for a few others. Host a podcast with my wife called Friends with Benefits. It is all about revenue generating relationships, not business time with friends. I've spent some time building partnerships at a company called Drift and Terminus, and before that PFL. So I've kind of been in this game for a while, and also run an event here in Bozeman, Montana called the Arcadia Leadership Experience. That is a gathering for B2B tech leaders where we spend some time outside, outdoors, and doing all sorts of experiential things. And yeah, I'm just excited to be here today. Thanks, man.
Hey Jason, thank you so much for joining this. Partnership programs is something that, just to give you quick context, the biggest investment I've ever made in a channel in terms of people is partnerships. We our head of growth, which is both who's Udayan. He's joined as he's now owning all of marketing and all of sales. Spent a year trying to build out a partnership program. We hacked together something. We got some results. It was so unstructured. It was so hilariously bad. At the end, we now have other channels that work better for us. So I am a failed partner, marketer, marketing person, whatever, right? So this
That's all right.
is
The first
being
step is admitting it, Sean. The first step is admitting it. And I'm glad that
so
you're
yeah,
able to
so
own that.
this is we had one episode with Corey, who's also
One of
someone
my
you know.
best friends in the world.
Yes, so he that's when I realized, oh, that's everything. We did everything wrong. I realized that after we had failed and when I was recording that podcast. So now I get to go through my trauma again with you today. So so just let's just like straight away dive into the partnership program you built for Drift. And Drift was all the hype. Like it's still a huge company, right? But then there was a time where Drift was just you look anywhere and Drift was the hot
Oh,
company. You're listening to that
they
like that.
own the market in
Yeah.
every capacity. So
So
yeah, when Drift brought me on, they already scaled to quite some level, but they had brought me on to specifically focus and build their tech partner program. And eventually went to own the entire program, agencies, alliances like Salesforce, Marketo, etc. But what they initially hired me on was to build the tech programs. They didn't really have a any sort of foundation or true process. Nothing was operationalized there. So they had a few things cooking. Like they had about 70
Yeah.
different integrations that we could choose from a partner. But they brought me on to kind of identify like where we should be really focusing to begin.
Uh, like there's a long story behind this, but the first partner program I wanted to join as an agency was the Drift Partner program, and I just thought we were too small to do it, so I never tried. Just and this is at the same time. I think maybe a few years after you left it, or maybe almost in the same period where I tried to sort of, or I thought about, but I was like, hey, no, we're too early for this. Let's not do it. Probably should have tried, but. Yeah, like that partner program is something that I've seen other agencies I looked up to was be a part of. It was front and center on their website, um, and these are agencies that I've aspired Spear Growth to look like. So it was just like, oh, I have to do that. Like, because that was their primary offering and all that. So like, great job building that up.
Yeah, they had a really good agency side. I didn't have a ton of hand in building that up. I did get a chance to manage the team they're in. Great team, great process. A guy named Alex Lemieux was really great at working with agencies and sourcing it out. Had a really good process of doing that. And Bennett, Vic, Shireen, Brent, all those guys on the team did a fantastic job of managing those agencies and like making it extraordinarily valuable, not only for Drift but also for the agencies, which I think is
Yeah.
the hardest thing to do.
Yeah. So at Drift, you grew the partnership program and revenue from the partnership program by 5 times, right?
Yep,
And how?
specifically from the tech side, and yeah, getting a tech partner program established and identifying the ones to work with and how we actually, go to market with those partners.
Love that. So where did it like how long did it take? Where did like can you share any numbers on like hey, where were you when it started? Where did you scale it to by time,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. So when I started the tech program, I was doing right under a million, and by the time we kind of finished and built this thing up, and it took we'll give the time frame like 18 months. Right,
Wow.
but it was really at about the 5 month mark that we started to see this uptick, and we're like, oh, okay, here we go, this is going to work. But the 18 month mark, we exceeded that of like we exceeded $5 million with just a handful of tech partners, and it really came down to like the whole process that I've built out is kind of like what the partner up timeline kind of thing. It's like how do you really start to think about the partners you're going to go to market with and who are the ones that you're going to select? Like I said, we had 70 integrations that could equal partners if we wanted to go after them, but not all integrations are going to be partners. So we narrowed it down to about 5 or 6 that we knew we could and should support based off where our customers existed, the data that we were looking at inside of Salesforce and whatnot, and integration data and all those things. Then we began to whittle it down to 2, which became 6sense and SalesLoft, and then we kind of narrowed it down to just 1 to focus on initially. Because what I began to discover was that the sales team wasn't really incorporating partners, the data, tactics, and strategy into their day-to-day operations and how they were prospecting, how they were leading calls. Marketing didn't really have anything going on from like a true strategy process. And so I began to work with these teams around understanding like, all right, how do we begin to natively incorporate partners into your daily activities, sales teams, marketing teams.
Yeah.
And so I remember going to Justin Keller, who was VP of Revenue Marketing at Drift, and saying, hey, I want to try something. I have a hypothesis, right? And this hypothesis was formed after marketing kept coming to me saying, hey, we got this webinar. We need partners to help us drive some leads and registration to it because we're kind of behind. And I said, no, it doesn't really work out for the partners so well if we're just asking them to generate leads for us, right? Because they're not even involved in the webinar. So I was like, what if instead of going to a partner 3/4 of the way through, we started to lead with the partner? And he was like, yeah, I'm all in. What do we got to do? Like, I'm curious. Let's go. And so I began to walk the marketing team through, like, here's all the data that I've got coming in from Crossbeam. Here's the overlap data. Here's what I know to be true when we have integrations tied to a customer. If we have 8 or more integrations connected, they're 80% more likely to retain. And if we have 10 or more integrations, they don't churn at all. Like, they stay. So like the goal is like, let's get more integrations connected. Let's get more partners involved here. And so let's start telling the story of like how we work with partners. And specifically, if you give me 1 quarter, I want to just focus on 6sense. So the Drift 6sense partnership, the Better Together story, how do we focus that and really begin to kind of hone in? Because we knew we had a ton of overlap in customers and our customers that were using some of the data that we were piping in. So our customers were very successful when they used 6sense. So I began to enable the marketing team on like the data, the opportunity, the who. Here's some plays we can be running. Thankfully, I've worked in this space for a while. I've got a marketing background, so I could kind of talk to the marketing team about building these webinars or these nurture campaigns, running these personalized chat playbooks inside of Drift, these ABM campaigns. And then in turn, we went to the partner and asked them to provide some coverage as well. Right, when the 6sense, like, hey, can you make us your featured partner on your website for this quarter? Can you support some of this ABM initiative? Can we enable your team around the work that we're going to be doing so they can help support as well? And then they said, of course. And then the marketing team was all in for experimenting this one quarter. All right, so then we got busy like building the supporting material, like the joint value propositions or the AKA Better Together stories, landing pages, the chat playbooks, all the things that would support this quarterly initiative. And so like we did a lot of work leading up to it, but in the end, it played off massively.
I have a bunch of questions. First of all, you did at some point of time consider getting a lot of partners involved, and then it seems very quickly you said, "Hey, let's focus on 6sense."
Well,
Can you just
I kind of,
talk through that?
yeah, I saw the fact that the teams weren't doing a lot with partners as it was. Like, even though we were driving a ton of revenue through our channel program, that was kind of more, BDR type situations where the team was going out chasing their own leads down. But I had this idea that, if the sales team was able to prospect into our partners' database and the stuff they had piping into Salesforce, and marketing was relying on partners to kind of go to market, then we could get there a lot faster, right? And there's a lot of supporting data that shows that partners will drive a bigger, better, faster path to revenue. And I think it's SAP Success Factors. I even put a report out not too long ago that said partners will drive 200% bigger deal sizes, 18% better close rates, and 40% faster sales cycles. And that is exactly what we saw in the long run at Drift. But to answer your question, is like, how do we get there first? And I feel I knew that if we started to throw every partner into the mix at the sales team, it was just going to be way too much. And I knew that if we can get it right with one, we can get it right with many. So that became the focus and the goal. Is like, all right, how do we pull it? How do we narrow this down? Like, go deep with one partner, so that as I begin to add the next one, sales law, and the next one demand base, the next one outreach, they understand exactly the motion and the move to run. And so we enabled the sales team around like the one partner, 6sense. We built out a sales playbook, all these different motions and opportunities it could run. We built a workflow and process inside of Salesforce that allowed us to operationalize the cross-beam data that we had piping in, so that the sales team could begin prospecting, right? They began to look at accounts inside of Salesforce. They could make a partner intro request within Salesforce that went to the partner in Slack, and they began working these deals on their own instead of my team being glorified BDRs. And on the reverse side of that, I'm working with marketing around like how to pull all this overlapping data from 6sense in, how to, run this ABM initiatives using this partner data, using all the stuff we have from Crossbeam again, pushing it into the platforms like 6sense and Outreach and all these other tools that we were using, and helping them, again, achieve that bigger, better, faster path to revenue.
Good. And so the three teams you've mentioned most as the tech team to actually build the integrations and make them more robust, then the marketing team to build out all the communication, joint communication, and then the sales team to actually do partner sales. So, so those are the three teams, right? Or did I miss a team?
No, I think you're right. The main ones are creating that marketing and sales alignment from the partner side of the house, and making sure that marketing is aware of the opportunity at hand, and how to build the supporting materials alongside me, and how do you enable the sales team to begin selling and prospecting based off those new leads that are coming in, and prospecting on the ones that you're going to be outbounding to that are customers of partners.
This just sound like a very heavy lift. from both the team side, right? So like, how does that, like, let's say if I had to reach out to someone like, hey Jason, could you be my one partner, right?
Yeah.
My friend with benefit. So
Yeah.
my single friend with benefit. So,
Nice. I like it.
um,
Well done.
so like how do I, like, what needs to be true for both the teams to say, you know what, yeah, let's actually, this seems like a big lift. So how can both teams agree? Like, how did you even make that happen? Was it like similar sizes? Did you go to them with a pitch that, hey, this is why us? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah, so you kind of want to treat it as any sort of, I think, go-to-market initiative. Begin to understand like what's the position gonna be, right? And I actually built out a whole framework called partners that I walk through now in some sessions that I do. Like the P stands for positioning, like align on that joint narrative and better together story. Like, is this is this accurate of like how we serve in the market together, right? And long term, you want to think it with your partners like how we coexist in the market together, right? And it all starts with that positioning. How are you going to align on this joint narrative and better together story? Cool. You take a stab at it, take a stab at it, kind of pull them together. You got tools like ChatGPT now that can really help accelerate that process and build a lot of that together. I really
Yeah.
encourage like working with your partner very closely before you start feeding GPT stuff. And then the next thing you do is start to look at the A in partners, which is audience, right? Identify and segment the ICP overlap between partners and using tools like Crossbeam to do that, your CRM, your integration data, like where are the customers existing currently and within your integration ecosystem, and where does it make the most sense to begin to align in the market, right? And then the R resources, defining that mutual investment, right? What from a resources standpoint, what do you need? You need how many? Who's going to own what? What people? What budget? What's the content going to be? Begin to map all that out and begin to look at kind of the overall opportunity at large. Like you just kind of throw stuff on the whiteboard. Who's going to do what? Map it out, and then erase the things that don't make sense, and then kind of go where it makes the most sense and most strategic moves for you. And then T, the tactics. You're selecting scalable co-marketing plays like the webinars, the events, any sort of demand gen plays. Like what are the things you're going to do? Then you begin to nurture, right? Build post-campaign engagement and conversion paths. Like I think a lot of partner marketing initiatives going to fail like post-event. Like you fed all this data into a campaign, into a webinar that's coming from a partner. You're getting the right person there because of their trust and their relationship with your partner. They're coming in to hear this story. But then after, you're not really relying on that messaging much more, right? So what I encourage is like continue to rely on that better together story, that joint venture, that joint value prop you've built, landing pages, material supporting, chat playbooks and stuff like that. Think about how you nurture that, right? And then how do you're again, we go back to kind of the resources. Once you have those people and things identified, like how are you going to execute? Operate with clear roles, SLAs, and accountability. I've gone as far as like to map out the entire GTM initiative from bringing a partner on to how we're going to go to market together, who's going to own what are the SLAs involved, and accountability and timelines and deadlines, stuff like that. It does sound like a lot at first, but if you begin to get like a real framework and like a couple of pieces in place that you can begin to templatize, then it gets a lot faster and faster. And again, if you get it right with one, it gets a lot easier with the next 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. But then that R in partners is reporting. What are you tracking and attributing? And then the S is sales, enabling the sales team. So I feel like if you follow kind of that framework and have a clear understanding and begin to templatize some of the materials you need, like it might be a lot of heavy lift in the beginning, but as you begin to go forward and it becomes much smoother, faster. And then what I saw at Drift, remember we spent a quarter kind of experimenting. 5-6 months later, Justin came to me and he said, dude, this is working. Like the pipeline velocity is going much faster. The opportunity sizes are much bigger. He was like, this is fantastic. We need to be shouting it from the rooftops, right? And so we went to the leadership team and told them, and after that, like I say that the Drift marketing team went from being partner curious to partner led, meaning that everything they did, they called them offers. So every offer they put out started with the partner instead of kind of came to a partner 3/4 of the way through the process to ask for help.
So all the things you've mentioned, like the benefits of a partner program, like increased deal velocity or anything else, or in higher deal sizes, that's usually when you're selling to a partner's customer, is what my understanding was. But then
Yes.
a lot of activities that you are suggesting you did were like, hey, just let's just do inbound marketing, but do it together. So there you must not have seen like a higher ACV or anything as such, right? Because for example, if I have
Our
to,
deal sizes were about 35% bigger when a partner was involved.
so just help me understand this, right? So
Sure.
let's say I do have a tech partner that I'm thinking of as we are doing this. So this is like free consulting for me. Thank you
Yeah,
so
let's
much.
do it.
So as I'm thinking about this, the product, just like in this case, is a slightly more complex product. Like Drift at that time was a complex product, right? And just like, so same with Six Sense. Six Sense, both of those required a bit of
Yeah.
education to be sold. So the partner that I'm thinking of is very similar to that. So so again, taking the example of Drift and Six Sense, if you just bring more complexity into a sale, in my head the sales close rate drops, right? It doesn't go up. Like it just like it's like, hey, I'm just made the entire sale more complex. Does that like, what am I missing essentially?
I don't know that you're missing anything, to be honest. I mean, the reason that I think I have experienced it being higher in the market at large and on average export sees it as higher is the trust that comes with when you're selling with a partner, right? So buyers trust their ecosystems more than they trust your brand. Meaning, if your ICP is a customer of, we'll use Six Sense as the example. If they're a customer of Six Sense and they know these guys, they know their CSM quite well. They've got a good relationship with their
Sorry,
vendor and
just to
vendor.
cut you off, Subet. So
Sure.
yes, sure. If they're a customer of Six Sense, completely makes sense in the Crossbeam play. And just for someone listening that doesn't know
Yeah.
Crossbeam, that's basically a software that you basically can see their leads or their customers and map out to your ICP or vice versa. You can just like make
Yep.
slits in the share
Great point.
contacts or company information and get more context. So uh, for that, just if I just did crossbeam play and then I just use crossbeam and then just built a bunch of enablement material which I kept hidden with me, never used for any inbound marketing, that should be enough. How did the rest of it help? I'm still not able to really connect it all, because if I am thinking about like, hey, if I just have crossbeam, if I have great enablement material for sales and then for anyone looking for it, and I don't ever do a webinar with the partner, is that not like what gets missed there? Because that's how most people do it, right? But you went a step ahead. Like, with why?
I think I consult with a lot of companies, and most companies get Crossbeam. They kind of put it in place, and they just think like
Yeah.
it's going to be some sort of magic button. In reality, it's the complete opposite. It's like any data source. If you don't operationalize it and push that data into the platforms that your sales and marketing teams is using on a daily basis, and then pulling it to where it needs to be actioned and utilized, then like it's a worthless investment, right? I can I can go be a glorified BDR anywhere and use Crossbeam as my own tool to prospect into.
Yep.
But like if we want to go faster, and if you've got 40 sales reps, like with Drift, we had 40, 50 sales reps, like think about how many opportunities they can drive versus my smaller team of 4 or 5 people, right? And what we did once we showed the sales team how to use Crossbeam, like when we put Crossbeam widget inside of Salesforce, and we showed the sales team how to use it, how to put in a request and everything else, like over the course of 9 months, our sales team drove 720 partner intro requests
Oh wow.
because they were now prospecting into partner accounts. And as they made these intro requests, it went to the shared Slack channel that we had with a partner, right? So the sales rep could see it in Salesforce. They could take an action inside of Salesforce to request, and that action would go to Slack to the actual partner, and the partner AE, CSM, or partner manager would jump in and be like, "Hey, I own that account. Happy to help. Let's talk about it." Right. So I think most partner managers miss out on like how to truly enable and operationalize the partner data strategy and tactics that they have at their fingertips. Like most sales teams
Yeah.
don't really know. And I've talked to a lot of sales teams where I'm like, hey, have you got Crossbeam? And I know the answer to the question is yes, but the sales rep will be like, no, I don't know what that is. And I'm like, okay, well, pull up your Salesforce for me. Let me take a look at an account. And sure enough, there's a Crossbeam widget sitting on their Salesforce page, and they've just never looked at it, used it, understood it. And so there's just a ton of questions that they ask because like it's not a native function. You mentioned at the beginning that you didn't know how to do it, so it just kind of collapsed or it failed on its own. And like
Yep.
if it's not native to a marketer or a seller, they're just going to go back to what they know
Yep.
immediately. And it takes a lot of repetitive motions, a lot of cycles, and got to the point where I was probably spending 70% of my time internal providing enablement, walking people through the process, how to use the sales playbooks that we've built, working with marketing and opportunities. I started getting invited to, quarterly marketing calls and opportunities to work with them and show them kind of the partner that we could be using and how to pull a partner into which offer they were putting out. And I think most partner people go back to that one thing I mentioned is like, all right, Jason, your number's $2 million for the year. This number for this quarter is, we'll call it 500,000. Go get it. And so I go and I'm like, all right, now I'm a glorified BDR. I got to go through Crossbeam and look at, maybe some opportunities, some named accounts and stuff like that. And I think you're taking the slow path. Yeah, the deal sizes will still probably be bigger, but you're taking a slower path to get there by not saying, okay, if I've got to hit 2 million, like how many of these sales reps going to activate to help me get there much faster, but not only get there faster, blow that number out of the water.
That actually makes sense. So, okay, great. So let's actually talk through the three teams that you have, right? So the sales teams, you've mentioned exactly what you do for enablement. You've also mentioned uh, building joint sales programs. You've mentioned like what tech you sort of usually train, like in this case, what tech you had to train them on. You mentioned how much time of yours it took, for how long, how difficult. Is there anything that you've already not mentioned? If let's say I had to say, okay, what do I do for the sales enablement bit? Have you, or I think you've mentioned most of it already. Is there something you missed?
The team that gets left out of, I think, the partner motion quite often is the customer success team. And if you think about a lot of tech companies right now, like what's one of their primary objectives, if not the main one, is retention,
Yeah.
right? Justin Keller, you say retention is the new acquisition, especially for these companies going through any sort
Yeah.
of funding or series rounds and stuff like that. Like they're just trying to maintain that retention and get some expansion out of their current customer base. And if you are, selling based off trust and selling based off an ecosystem, then like what better way to do that than go through partners, right? If you're trying to expand, so let's say, Amazon's a good example. I feel like there's infinite amounts of business units you could sell into at
Yeah.
Amazon. Let's say you land Amazon Business, right? And CS
Yeah.
is like, well, we've got opportunities. We're seeing success here. Like, how do we expand into other, units of Amazon? How do we go to AWS next or Amazon Music next, Marketplace next? You can begin to expand and go into partners that are already in some of those departments and allow
Yeah.
them to give you a warm introduction, which is where the power of a partner really sits. Is that I can go to Six Sense back in the day, or here at Knack, I can go to Movable Ink and I can say, hey guys, I see you're working with McDonald's, right?
Yeah.
Do you think it makes sense for us to get an introduction to that team at McDonald's? Here's what we believe to be true about our platform and how it would serve them. Based off this information, would you be comfortable either putting in a good word for us or making an introduction to your contact? And 9 times out of 10, it's yeah. Or either it's maybe, well, the timing's not right now. We'll bring it up on our next call or QBR, but we'll keep it going for you. We'll warm that lead up for you. And that works way better and way faster than you trying to BDR and cold call and email your way into it. But I can just go to one partner and make one call, and they can put in one ask, and then in turn get one email out of it.
Yeah. So how did you balance, or how did you think about balancing how much value you're giving to Six Sense versus how much value you're getting from Six Sense as Drift? I think because when you talk about, hey, I need to tap into a partner's CS team, I think one pushback could be, okay, how can I give back just as much, if not more, is how
Yeah,
I think about it. So how do you
you're
think
spot on.
about it, track it, balance it? Because I think that's a very tough part.
Yeah, it is, and for me, like it's a two-way street, value in, value out.
Yeah. Yep.
But for me, I wanted to push way more value out. I wanted one of the questions I like to ask a partner when I first, take them on is like, what's going to make me your most valuable partner? Right? What's the number you've got to hit this year that's associated to partners? Okay, 1 million. How much of that is associated to this partnership per se? Right? Okay, 200,000. Cool. Now I know what's going to make you look good, and I'm going to try to help you get to that number. Like I understand like what you're trying to solve for. I
Yeah.
understand what your numbers are, what you're trying to hit, and your goals and KPIs. And I'm trying to understand like how to provide as much value to you. Because if you think about it, Sean, it's like it's relationships in general. Like is if I'm pushing value out to you and I'm helping you and I'm providing this level of access to you, like the the laws of influence, like that the other side's going to reciprocate,
Yeah.
right? Robert Cialdini wrote the book of Influence, and one of his things is reciprocation. And if you provide this level of value out, and it's a high level of value relationship, and you're really investing in that relationship to make it work, then the other side's going to reciprocate. Obviously, your C levels are going to know like what sort of value are we getting from that partner, but you can get to a point where that they're going to reciprocate. It gets to a point where you can begin to run QBRs and understand like, all right, if you've got 200K associated to me, let's break that down into quarters. I've got 500K associated to you. Let's break that down into quarters. And let's begin to look at how many opportunities we need per quarter to begin working together in order for us to hit these numbers. You can work from a level of transparency and mutual action planning.
I think that's now that I think back to all my failed partnerships, that's something I've never thought of or done. It's just like, how do I provide more without ever quantifying it? Um, and I think very often when, let's say, if you're falling short of, hey, we cannot send more leads at the moment, can we do some other things? Can we do co-marketing? Can we keep them engaged? And that was a
Yeah,
cycle
absolutely.
we were thinking of. But I think
Can
this is
can I
interesting.
can I pull you into an event, or can we do a live event together, or can you sponsor something we're doing? I mean, there's all sorts of levels of value that you can do in the market together. And I've been asked a lot lately, and actually put a LinkedIn post about this. Like, what does a successful partnership look like to me? And I think I said it earlier, but it looks like two companies kind of coexisting in the market together, and that doesn't oftentimes in the beginning equal revenue. It could equal like, you know, I'm going to Adobe Summit here soon, and I'm sponsoring. I've got partners that are sponsoring an event with us. Like that
Yeah.
is massively helpful because we've got over close to 500 people coming to this event. Couldn't have done that alone, right? But we needed the help of the partners to help drive a lot of their people there, and a lot of those people on that registration list. Guess what? They're leads and prospects of one of my clients, so they're getting a lot of value of it as well. So we've allowed a space for a partner to come and bring their people, and we've asked them like, who do you want us to invite to this event so that you can meet them as well, right? And so they're getting some value out of it, and it's a mutual exchange of value at an event that will eventually turn into, guess what, revenue and more trust and a better relationship.
That's, yeah, I think, and we can just ask, like, now that I think of it years later, I could have just asked that, hey, do you really care about an introduction to this? Do you really care? Like, does it really matter to you? Like, we can just ask, like, what do you,
Yeah,
yeah, and then if you don't, then great, I won't annoy you with a random thing,
highly
right?
encouraged at the very first call. Like level set, ask the questions. What's right? What's wrong? What's missing? What's confused? What's your expectation in this partnership? What's going to make me your most valuable partner? Like what do you not like about partnering with companies? What do you want to see out of this relationship? Kind of, I mean, you can ask all these questions at level sets, and if there's any sort of red flags, like what, maybe this isn't going to be a relationship that works out. We can have some sort of like referral relationship, or you can just submit us leads as they come along, or we can find a way to self-serve this relationship, but it's not going to be a supported go-to-market partnership if there's red flags.
Yeah, we did the complete opposite. I had like 25 partners at or more, and it was like I was so proud. It was like huge logos, and there was just like, hey, I was like just said, hey, will you be my partner? And just like
Right.
any large company, any large tech company said yes, you were like, great, we have another partner.
Yep.
And we couldn't do anything with any of them because there were just too many, and we were a much smaller company than all of them. So it's just like,
Yep.
hey, like for example, Apollo was a partner. How the heck can I ever be a large partner for Apollo 2 or 3 years ago as a like very small agency? You cannot, there's just no way you can keep up.
Yeah.
So
There's two red flags in there for me from a partner person. It's like looking for the big, fancy, shiny, everybody knows logo, right? Doesn't always equal a great partnership because you don't know if they align up to it's like your customer base. Just because they're a great logo doesn't mean they're going to be a great partner for you. And B, like having too many partners at one time and really not knowing how to quantify any of them. All right, so you want to understand like from the beginning, like, all right, what does it look like to actually have a partner program? Like, what are we measuring? What are we quantifying? And what do we actually need to see happen out of this? And like, how does our team even know how to work with partners? What do we need to do from that side of the house to show them like what does this mean to have partners? And so, for starting, you want to kind of look at your database and kind of understand like where are your customers currently spending time from a technology perspective currently, and with who are they spending time from an agency perspective? And a lot of times you can see all that directly within your CRM from an integration perspective, and as well as from like an agency perspective. If there's people within your database, like your customer, so your customer is again McDonald's, and you've got other people in that McDonald's account who don't have a McDonald's email address, you can begin to see like maybe that's an agency. Maybe there's Ishan at speargrowth.com is in there and like, oh, who is this? This person is working in this instance. They know our products, and maybe they'd make a good partner. And that's a move that I actually learned from Corey.
awesome. Okay, so I just realized we have very limited time. I still have too many questions. I'll ask a few, which I always ask. Um, so when you build this partnership program, what were all the? So we know that three teams were involved. We know there was a lot of enablement for sales and marketing, um, and we know that you spent about at 1.70% of your time on this, on just internal enablement. Apart from that, what were some other investments in time, effort, focus, money that went into just maintaining a partnership program like this?
So the question is how much energy, investment, and time goes into like launching a
Time and
go-to-market
money. Like
partnership.
you paid for Crossbeam, it was your time.
Mm-hmm.
Were there more people in your team? Uh, there was a sales team's time. There was like, so can you just list that down? Like, okay, what all is there? So if someone's looking to say, can I afford to make this investment right now? Because there's also
Right.
can I really afford to get the sales team focusing on something else right now? Do I really need them to focus on something else? So in terms of focus, time, and money, like how much investment really went into this?
So that's what I've initially focused on, and I did run up against this with the enablement team at Drift, and they're like, "Oh well, we've just got too many playbooks or too many certification things going on right now." So yes, we see the opportunity, but need more detail around it before we can really prioritize this as a strategic initiative and to actually launch this on an all hands. And so it I don't use the word convincing, but it took a little bit of convincing to get the enablement team to really give us the placement we wanted to kind of go full force with this. Right. And I told them, I was like, I really want to just focus on this for a quarter, right? Give me a full quarter to run this as kind of an experiment. Like, this is my hypothesis. I know it's going to work out because I've seen the play before. So just give me some time, give me some support. And we spent the time, me and one of the guys on my team, Andy, spent the time building the materials and the playbooks and stuff like that out. And again, it probably took us, took a few weeks to nail that content down, going back and forth, working with stuff and understanding all the data and, working with some of the business strategist team. I think it took about 4 weeks to kind of pull all the data together from them that we needed from an integration perspective. And then again, going with the marketing team back and forth, like, took a few weeks of working with the marketing team to understand like, hey, what we're going to launch, here's what we're going to do, and pull it all together. And so like it got to the point where like the marketing team at Drift, like we would meet a month before the quarter to come, and we'd spend time drafting everything out, sketching the plays, the offers, stuff like that, which partners we're going to bring in, and then working with partners. So like, I feel like if you can give yourself a month to prepare and set up and really head down, pull everything together, you can make it all work to launch in that next quarter. Especially now with I didn't have like GPT or AI back then to do all this. And right now I'm a one-man shop anywhere I go, and like GPT is my team. And so like I'm able to feed it a lot of these templates that I've built and a lot of this material that I've built. And so now it helps me pull this together in a much faster rate. But I would say time perspective, give yourself a month to kind of pull it all together, have the proper meetings, get the stuff going, maybe even 6 weeks to be safe. And then be able to launch within a new quarter would be helpful. And then I think the resources that, like from a tech perspective, you would need is like Crossbeam is very helpful. You're going to want that if you're running a partner program. Yeah. If you're going to go this deep, you're going to want somebody to manage this, like a partner person, like a partner leader, partner manager. Don't try to do it from the side of the desk. Don't try to do it as a side project. Like really dedicate a person to the role, and then give them a little bit of budget to have a tool like Crossbeam. And then really think about like how you're going to give them access to the greater go-to-market team, because again, it only works if the team is supporting. Partnerships only works if it's got proper alignment to sales and marketing.
Yeah. Well, that actually answers my other question also. Like, hey, what does the timeline look like? So you answered both. Cost and timeline. Is there anything that I should have asked you that will really help anyone listening build something like this, like if they wanted to do on next Monday, that I didn't?
I think we've covered a lot. Can't think of any one particular thing to ask. It's most people ask like how do we get started? Right, and I think that's the bigger question for people that don't have it. Yeah. And again, I always go like dig into your data, find that one partner, and begin to like kind of build around that, and just begin to think about how you can support one instead of trying to support a massive amounts of partners. And you can easily find one partner if you've got any certain level of customers in your database. And again, don't think about it like when you're getting started. Don't think about it being this massive, huge, gargantuan lift. Like, don't be afraid to take baby steps.
I absolutely love this, because now it's for me. I was thinking of using should we give partnership another shot? And my biggest takeaway was, and because I had someone in mind, the entire episode I've been thinking, okay, maybe I should just reach out to them and just say, hey, could we just try it for
That's
a
awesome.
quarter?
Yeah, just try it. Let's just run some experiments. I have an hypothesis. This is it. I want to run some experiments. Are you on board with it? Yeah. If maybe you get a deal or two out of it, but if not, then like we haven't lost too much. We've learned something, and we can go back and reiterate and do it again with somebody else.
I really like that. That's the one thing that we can do that. We can definitely do that. I just need to make sure there's someone in my team that has the bandwidth to actually not make this a side project.
Right.
Before
side project's going to get lost to something they know way more intel about, information about, way more comfortable with. Again, if they don't understand the motion, they don't have the full time to do it, they're going to go back to what they know is working.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. This has been great. Thank you so much, Jason. This is
absolutely. Thank you.
After the episode with Corey, I didn't know how there could be another good partnership episode, but this was very different and very, very useful and very timely for me, honestly. So thank you so much.
Love that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for listening to the TLDR podcast. In case you're wondering, Spear Growth is a marketing agency. We do ads and SEO for B2B SaaS companies like yourselves. You can check us out at speargrowth.com. That is SPEARGROWTH.com. Every episode, just like this one, starts with a quick summary of what we're going to discuss. Pick the next episode to watch based on what you can implement right now. And once you start seeing results, we'd really appreciate it if you dropped us a note at podcast@speargrowth.com.